How's it going? I'm Enda, and I wanted to tell you a bit of my background story so you get a sense of who I am and why I do what I do. Like, how did an anxious and depressed, heavy alcohol and drug addict resolve his addictions? And more importantly, how did I resolve the self-judgment driving them? And how did I end up helping over 26,000 people online with similar issues? So here's the story, and by the end of the video I'll share a special gift that will help you release all kinds of unhelpful thoughts, feelings and emotions, as well as have an amazing night's sleep. Okay, so when I was born into this world I wasn't breathing. My biological mother's traumatic pregnancy had led to this moment, and the birth was traumatic, so everyone thought I'd died, but I came back to life. And I was adopted 4 weeks later by an incredible family, but I became very sick a few weeks afterwards, where again they thought I was going to die. And my mum said I was a very anxious baby, highly aware and sensitive. And as I grew up in a family with 3 siblings, I never felt like I truly belonged, and I knew I'd never really fit in. And I remember sitting at the dinner table, just sensing the warmth and energy of my family surrounding me, yet feeling like I couldn't quite connect with them. It's like I wasn't present in the conversations. And instead, I found myself distracted by random sounds and the painful intensity of the bright lights in our kitchen, those strip lights. And over time, the feeling of not being able to connect and not belonging intensified for me. And this left me feeling more anxiety, depression and deep unease growing inside myself. And more situations in my life played out that made things much worse, and I began to self-medicate. And this involved drinking lots of alcohol from a young age and using drugs anywhere I could get them. I would simply do whatever I could to suppress the pain, anything. And I spent many years of my life and energy pushing that pain away, keeping it at arm's length, not willing to face it. And then I had an experience that really showed me what alcohol and addiction was creating in my life. And this was the catalyst for me to stop drinking and doing drugs. And this experience didn't even involve much alcohol. Relatively speaking, just a few ice beers, but my poor decision making and lack of physical coordination ended up with me lifting a good friend up by her waist in some dance move at a festival gig. It was just such a badly prepared for and ill choreographed dance move that ended up with both of us falling backwards and both of us hit our heads on the dance floor. And I remember lots of people coming over to see if she was okay, just totally ignoring me, but thankfully she was fine, and so was I. But the idea that my actions could have seriously harmed her really freaked me out, even though all along my behavior and actions were seriously damaging myself and everyone around me by default. But within a year I was clean and sober, and I thought I'd really kicked self-sabotage out of my life. At least that's what it looked like on the surface. But the truth is, the transference of alcohol and drug addictions just filtered into every other aspect of my life. So many other ways. And that insanity lasted well over a decade. It affected all my relationships, and I started to use the excuse of becoming a father to simply isolate myself from friends and family alike. And around that time, I began to realize I was in a toxic relationship, but I was simply afraid to make any changes. It was familiar, and we had a son to raise. But I didn't realize that by leaving I would have changed my relationship with myself for the better, because the path I was on was literally killing me. And I remember a question that started as a whisper that reverberated through my head, and it grew louder and louder as I went to bed each and every night. It was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why do I keep choosing all this shit? Why do I keep choosing circumstances that totally drain me? So those questions fueled me to look at what was not working in my life. And then my mother died suddenly, And it hit me hard because it was only really in the last month of her life that we'd been talking every week. But a month later, my now ex, my son who was 8 at the time, and I moved to a different country. And the energy behind those questions led to the official breakup of the long-term relationship we were in. So I plummeted a bit more as I found myself in a conflictual reality. Like, I lived somewhere I had no desire to be, yet I had every desire to stay and be a father to my son. So I had to find a place of my own. And to pay for this, I worked for a guy, but when I found him abusive, I simply pulled the plug. So, so suddenly there I was in an empty apartment, wondering how I was going to pay my rent and judging myself as a failure in the most hideous ways possible. And I still remember the day like it was moments ago. Just sat in my apartment, 7 floors from the ground, just heaviness brewing in the air around me, wondering, which window am I going to jump out of? Like, I was convinced I was ready to die. Just looking out of that high building onto the ground and visualizing myself landing on the ground at high speeds. It's just the state of mind I had at the moment. And then I got a moment of clarity and I thought, hang on a second, what the fuck am I saying to myself? And some kind of lightness dawned on me that all my life I'd been trying to fix and control things. Like, I'd been trying to change the past. I'd been trying to change my circumstances. I'd even been trying to change other people. But had I actually considered what I could change within myself? So that's when I realized in that moment, in my empty apartment, that I could choose to give in to misery and jump out of the fucking window, or I could simply choose to go another way and actually become happy. Because even though you can change your perception of the past, life isn't about what happened before, and you can't actually go back and change the events. So shortly after this experience, I started down the path to getting diagnosed with autism. So there I was, a 45-year-old man with a son, thinking that I was disabled. But the process of being diagnosed shed light on so many other things, and things in my life started to fit together, and moments where I really wasn't being me became clear. And the day before I was diagnosed with autism, one of my business mentors pointed me in the direction of a new type of therapy that he said could help me. So the day after this, I was diagnosed in the morning, and later that afternoon I experienced that therapy for the first time, and it created the most pivotal day of my life, because it led me to finding my true self within that first session. The timing was perfect, and it was a massively life-changing experience for me. And through further sessions, I began to create my place in the world, changing things in my brain, in my mind, in my reality that really helped me to let go of the past. And I let go of trying to change things that I had no control over. And instead, I was empowered to simply change my perception of everything and anything that had happened. So I became way less anxious and depressed. And suddenly, self-sabotage wasn't as intense in my world. In fact, I became much more aware of those self-sabotaging patterns and would make totally different choices before it even came up. So overall, I became much more aware. All of those suicidal thoughts I had went away, just like 100 million helium balloons just floating away into the upper atmosphere, never to return. And I stopped using cannabis for pain management for my 2 frozen shoulders brought about by stress and burnout. I'd been addicted to cannabis for 2 years, and I actually even stopped using CBD. And I noticed a greater sense of self-peace and peace in my life and in my relationships, and in general. I found it much easier to generate, receive, and to actually have money. I found it much easier to talk to people, to connect to them. So I made the choice to let go of judgment and instead choose to become much more present, just simply being in this moment. So a therapy known as Dreamscaping helped me with all of this. And the thing is, all those addictions to self-judgment, shame, alcoholism, self-medication, toxic relationships, being right, you name it. These were never the real problem, they were only just the symptoms. And dreamscaping was the catalyst that brought me to this awareness. So I decided to share this gift with the world. And pretty soon I uploaded a recording onto Insight Timer, the meditation app, and over the past couple of years, 26,000 people have listened to it and given it 4.9 out of 5 for all kinds of challenges they were experiencing, like poor sleep, anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts, limiting beliefs, and even physical pain. So then soon afterwards, I ended up working with a bunch of agency owners, and I started to notice amazing revenue-based results, as well as the usual results I'd been catalyzing and facilitating, such as improved mental and physical health and acuity, happiness, and much better relationships. And it's actually at this point important to note that those agencies were already out of the weeds, with the owners taking home at least $25,000 per month. So they didn't need to learn new tactics and strategies for their business. I mean, they're already, after doing all the courses, they've learned all the tricks, yet there was something holding them back between their ears. And deep down, these clients wanted to scale and exit their business because, let's face it, agency work isn't a long-term career, but instead of doing this, it's like fear was locking them in place, like fear of the unknown at dizzying revenue heights, or fear of what to do after scaling and exiting their business. So as an agency owner, you're undoubtedly aware of this. With such a scalable business model, what's usually holding you back is between your ears. It's like lack of confidence or feeling you don't deserve that kind of success. So now, my target is to facilitate agency owners out of self-sabotage, out of locking themselves into agency hustle and grind, out of burnout. Because with my personal experience over 40 years of anxiety, depression, addictions, and trauma, I find it very easy to recognize and lead clients out of this way of simply existing and lead them into a state of clarity and confidence, state of optimal health and physical and mental well-being, and into being joyous and abundant, where they can simply be and be happily enjoying their success and their wealth and their much improved relationships. And by truly scaling their agencies and then fully delegating or simply exiting, and by creating much more expansive lives for themselves and their loved ones, they are truly unlocking unlimited potential, success, and time freedom. Because the simple yet powerful solutions that changed my life so quickly and effectively can assist anyone. So it's possible for everyone to have freedom from self-sabotage and burnout, and freedom from the everyday hustle and grind of agency busy work. And so, just so you're aware, this is a progressive journey in my life where I continue to use transformative tools every day to support myself in making different choices like making a wild career change after 20 years in the music industry. And that in turn is creating a totally different future for me. And now I no longer self-medicate with any drugs, and I've been sober from alcohol for over 16 years. And beyond those symptoms, the vast majority of the underlying pain I had been avoiding has simply dissipated. So, if you find yourself struggling with the fear of changing direction in your life, self-sabotaging your choices, while burning out on the hamster wheel of your agency, at the same time suffering with anxiety, depression, or any addictions that go along with these conditions, or if you're someone who has always felt like you just simply didn't belong, what if now is your time to discover your place in the world? And what if that begins within you? And what if I can help you to change that? So I put together a super simple hypnosis session. It's called The Gift of Self-Healing. And I've been told this kind of recording should only be 5 minutes long as a freebie because folks don't have the time. But I only want to give you something that will actually deliver great results. And Gift of Self-Healing has had, like I said, 26,000 listens, so many 5-star reviews that I'm reluctant to offer you something else. So if you're willing to go on the journey into your own self-healing, just click the link below for that free gift. And you can start by downloading the audio and start to become the person that you're always and truly meant to be.